Hello and good morning. I think that's us live now. Okay, great. I can see loads of people on here joining already. So thank you for those of you that joined early, and I can see more are coming in now. I won't spend very long waiting for people to come in because we've got a lot to cover in the next hour. But if you're on here already, it'd be great to know who you are. And if you can let me know where you're from and whether you're a business owner or whether in fact whether you're a business leader or working within a business, although it's predominantly aimed at business owners today, I do get other people join. So just let me know who you are and what it is that you do. And then once I can see we've got the majority of people in, then we're going to crack right on. So great. Okay, so we've got from Sheffield. Okay, I can see some of you here from Droitwich, Gary. Hello, Gary. So just let me know, for those of you joining now, are you business owners? What sort of business is it that you run? That'll be really helpful for me to understand some of that before we move on. So lovely. From Surrey, you've got freelancer, fabulous. Okay. So I can see loads of people still joining, which is great news. But like I said, I'm not going to hang on for ages and ages waiting for everybody to come on live. People can catch up with us. Excuse me, looking away from you here. I've got my chat function over here out of the way. Otherwise, I'll spend all my time getting distracted by the chat. So lovely. Okay. So Paul, you've got a non-profit consultant. Lovely. Great. Thank you. I'm going to come back and look at those shortly. So if you've not written into the chat yet who you are, where you're from and what you do, if you could do that for me, that would be marvellous. Just helps me understand who I've got on and the sort of audience that I'm talking to. So right then, let's crack on with what you're here for. Which is today's masterclass, which is focused on how to become unstoppable so that you do the things that you need to do to effortlessly grow your business in a faster way without it feeling so hard or without slowing yourself down by getting in your own way, so that you show up as the best version of yourself with conviction and make more impact. And I love talking about how to achieve this because what I talk about isn't widely known, and when people understand it, it transforms them. And so investing time in this now will mean that you achieve higher levels of performance, that you start to show up with your A game consistently, so that you do what's needed in your business to grow it with more ease, less work, less effort, and less stress. So let me know in the chat then, is that something that you would like? Would you like to feel unstoppable so that growing your business just feels so much less effort? So let me know that into the chat, and I'm going to come back and have a look at that shortly. So in terms of today, as a person, if we've not met, then I'm all about getting results with speed and efficiency. So I don't like wasting time. So I'm going to make sure that we get into the information fairly quickly today. With that being said, let me tell you my aims for today. It's to provide you with as much as I can in an hour. So please do take notes because I'm going to cover a lot today. And I'm going to share with you insights and methods that I have based in neuroscience to become unstoppable, so that you know what you need to do to achieve your goals faster, and also so you understand why what I talk about actually works. And I'll take some time at the end of today to introduce you to my Limitless Success Academy that focuses on becoming limitless in business. So even when things are uncertain around you, you don't get held up, you make progress, you move forward, you achieve your goals. That being said, some of you will be interested in how I can take it a step further with you, some of you won't, and that's fine. Even if it's not for you, you will walk away with loads of actions that you can take. In terms of today, no questions are off limits. I share openly on social media all the time how I've changed my mindset and how I've used that to support myself succeed, and how I've used that to take my business, myself, my clients forward so that we all reach our goals faster. And so that's not going to change today. So if you've got any questions, then feel free to ask and I will answer anything that I possibly can for you. In terms of an introduction, if we've not met before, I'm Leanne Bridges. I'm a high performance coach and I support business owners, leaders and high achievers to unlock their full potential so they grow themselves and their business. And I'm not going to spend a long time telling you about my history because that's not right just now. I want us to get into the detail and I'll share a bit of my story with you later. But if you do want to learn more about my background or my history, then do feel free to have a look at my profile on LinkedIn if we're not connected there. And I post daily onto LinkedIn, and you'll see loads of recommendations there for the work that I do. So I'd love for you to connect with me. If you use the QR code to do that, although somebody has told me my shirt today looks like a QR code, it's not, don't scan my shirt. The QR code's on the screen here. And then when you go across to the LinkedIn platform, either use that or look me up, and just let me know that you attended today's masterclass, and then I'll make sure that we connect and I accept the connection request. What I will say right now is that everything I'm going to talk to you about today, I've actually experienced. I've been there, I've experienced it myself. I've made all the changes that I talk about. And like I said, you can ask me any more at the end, but I really appreciate how it feels to actually change all this stuff, what it actually takes to do it. So that all being said, let's get down to business. Let's start to look at what you need to do to become unstoppable and to grow your business. So I speak all the time to business owners. In fact, I've spoken to 850, more than that now, business owners, and it grows every week. And there are 5 reasons that people struggle to grow their business. And I'll take you through these now. And as I reveal them, I just want you to think about which ones are relevant to you and where you might be struggling right now. And I'll ask you to share the answers into the chat, because that's really helpful for me to tailor these masterclasses. But as I go through them now, just notice which ones are relevant for you. So the first one you'll already see on the screen there is that people tell me that they set goals, but after only a couple of weeks, maybe less, they start to lose sight of them and actually find that they just as well not really have set them in the first place. They're just really sort of a waste of their time. And in fact, some people aren't setting goals or committing to them, but instead they're just working on doing better than before and kind of hoping that that brings them better results. And then what tends to happen is that they find that a day takes control of them, and before they know it, it's 5 o'clock. And then they start to think to themselves, I think I'll just do that tomorrow. That kicks in. And so they're not progressing important issues in their business because they're getting bogged down in all the daily grind, all the daily things that need to happen. And they lose sight of their goals and where they are with those. That's the first thing. The second reason that they're not growing their business as fast as they'd like is because they believe, let me move this slide on, they believe that the next sales or marketing strategy might be the answer to growing their business faster, only to find several months on that that's not happened as they'd wanted. And so they feel like they're back to square one again. And of course, we do need a strategy to grow a business, but most people know what to do, but just actually aren't implementing it either fully or effectively. And so they go from one thing to the next, just like hoping that it's the answer, and put their hopes in this external solution, but actually overlook some of the really important internal factors, like whether they're showing up confidently and with conviction, like with potential clients, whether they're doing everything they should be doing, how quickly they bounce back when things don't work out and they don't secure that next contract that they thought was a dead cert, or whether they're getting slowed down with anything that goes wrong, and fundamentally really like whether they truly believe that they'll succeed, because all of these are the underlying reasons why these new strategies then don't go on to work fully. And I had a client who invested thousands of pounds in a new SEO optimized website. Now, was that important to do? Of course it's important to do. That's absolutely something that he would need. However, was that the issue that was stopping him making sales right now? It absolutely wasn't. The issue was that he found that when he had to have conversations with new prospects, that he felt really uncomfortable. And that what was driving that was because he felt like sales is really like slimy. Salespeople are slimy. And so he felt really uncomfortable in those selling situations. And so he wasn't getting in front of enough customers. And then when he did, he just wasn't converting them. And so the new website was never really going to sort out that problem. Yet when he worked on becoming unstoppable with me, things radically changed and he felt wholly different in those situations. So number 3 then is that they know that they need to be more visible. So they know that they maybe need to do more networking or publish more on social media or reach out to their existing network. And even though they need to do that, they just aren't doing it. They're just not putting themselves out there more, even though that they know that they need to do it. The third reason then is that they typically are avoiding difficult situations or conversations that have to be addressed. And so even though they're really busy action takers, they're just avoiding some really critical tasks or decisions. So clearly not everything, because most of the people I work with have got good businesses, but there are just a few things that if they did them, they would get exponentially better results, but they're actually avoiding them and it's holding them back. And like, to give you the example of the sort of things, you know, I had a client tell me that he had an issue with one of his suppliers and he just couldn't seem to deal with it. He needed to terminate their contract, but they'd worked with his business for ages, and so it all felt really difficult. And he said to me, it just took up so much headspace and energy thinking about letting this person go. And he spent half of the last few weeks worrying about doing this. And so it distracted him from the things he needed to do. It was wasting his time and energy and costing him money. And so rather than dealing with the issue, he was just doing other things, kind of giving himself, really difficult as it to say, like excuses really why it wasn't the right time. And really what it was doubt and fear that just kept coming back, meaning that he wasn't dealing with it, and this mental looping was just taking up time. It was burning through energy that he really could have been using growing his business. And as I say, these are all people with years of experience, but these feelings of doubt just keep coming back over and over again. And until you actually address them, then they will just continue to get in your way. You know, let me know in the chat, you know, do you ever get held up going round in circles in your head when really you actually should have just decided on something, acted on it, and then just have moved on? Because if that's the case for you, and let me know into the chat, there's a mindset issue that actually causes this. It's a pattern. You can actually break it. And I'm going to share how to do that later on, because it's actually not your fault and it's solvable. And when you crack it, you achieve more in less time and with way less stress. So some people are saying that they can see that. Oh, Julianne saying she can see it. Great in PL and sales. You just find it quite difficult to do for myself. And you know, I work with some marketing agencies, which is really interesting because initially I would have thought that that wouldn't be my target market, but it's easier to sell somebody else's services than our own. And there's some fundamental reasons why. So I'll talk about that later. So anyway, the fifth reason, I've got distracted by the chat. The fifth reason is that they feel like they're capable of so much more. In fact, they know they are, but think that if they just keep working harder and harder, that they'll get there in the end. But of course, they're working harder and harder on some of the things that aren't really shifting the needle. And so then they're saying to themselves, well, if I keep going like this and work harder, by next year I'll get there. But actually 12 months comes around and they're really not much further forward than they want it to be. So let me know into the chat which one of those 5 resonates for you. Maybe more than one of them will. But let me know which ones are coming up. So you, Sarah, you're not implementing task yet. Okay. Yeah, it's much easier to big someone else up than yourself. And there's some fundamental reasons why that's happening. So I'm going to talk about those. Okay. Thank you for sharing. Good. Some good energy in here today, which is fantastic. So all of them, well, don't worry about that because I'm going to talk you through what to do about that now. So like whichever one's resonating, as I say, I'm going to deal with what's going on for you now. Okay. So if you've got any issue in there, then by the end of today, you'll understand the process that you need to go through to deal with this so that you can actually just move on in an easier way. So look, this framework is a framework that I use to solve all of these things, to teach everything I do. It underpins all of it. And the reason that I share this is because what I notice happening is people do bits of this mindset work, bits of self-development, then they don't see results, then they don't get the outcomes that they want. So then they think, well, that doesn't work. But that's because they haven't got the whole process. They're not doing all the things that you need to do to develop this strong and resilient mindset where you're not on that roller coaster of one day feeling like you're winning and the next day feeling like you could just jack it all in. So that all being said, I think the first big question that I should answer is why should we focus on becoming unstoppable? Why is that even a thing for you? Well, there are some fundamental reasons why that's a thing and why this presentation will be useful for you today. And the first one is this, and like this resonates so much for me, and that is because life is just too short for all of this. You know, let's be honest, we've not got forever to grow our business. We don't want to spend forever feeling like this about this stuff. So most of you on on here now, you probably know that you need to make a change. You've probably been thinking about it for a while, and people then tend to procrastinate about this stuff. So my advice to you, if you just take one thing away to do now, is to work out what it is that actually is holding you back. Take a decision about how you'll move that forward, because when you crack it, you will start going all out in your life, and it will grow your business because you will be doing the things that you need to in order to get there. And then the second reason is that you are actually the single biggest asset that you have. And when you learn how to make the most of yourself, you have more impact, you show up with a strong presence, with conviction, like highly productive, you're focused and you get on with all these things, you know. And like when you think about that, you know, if you ever stood back and thought about yourself as like your asset and think, why is it that I am not getting the results that I actually want to? Like taking a look at yourself and thinking, what on earth is it that's stopping me? Because people deep down know that they're getting in their own way and avoiding things, and, you know, like doing things like, I don't know, changing the format on their website, or they start to get really involved in this massive spreadsheet and then they've lost a whole day, when what they actually should have been doing are those critical tasks that really would have shifted their business forward. And it's something I love helping clients with, because it's really powerful when you do that, when you get to the bottom of what it is that's driving you to avoid the things you need to do to really grow your business. Now, I did some analysis in 23, so last year, on my program, and people's output increased by 71% after going through the program with me. Now, 71% more productive. I mean, that is huge. And before the program, these are all people that said to me, I just haven't got one more hour in the day. I don't know how I could get any more done. And then they find themselves being 71% more productive. So let me ask you, would you like to be 71% more productive, to get 71% more output yourself? So let me know into the chat. So the third reason, I've got distracted about to get into the chat, the third reason is because most people I work with, okay, they want to feel freedom from their business. You know, most of us didn't go into this to be tied behind a desk, I'm sure. But then find ourselves working more hours in our business than we ever did when we were employed. And, you know, when they're not working on their business, then they're thinking about it. But when you become unstoppable and feel limitless in your business, and you get focused on building a business that actually works for you, you are highly productive, you do high value tasks, you do the tasks needed to grow your business, and then you can also park the rest until tomorrow. You feel a sense of mental and physical freedom from your business. And I know that's the thing that a lot of people want that work with me. Yeah, they want to grow their business. They also want to feel like freedom from it, freedom in their life. So those are the reasons I think that today's presentation is going to be useful for you, because when you make these mindset shifts, you go after what you want, you're visible, you promote yourself, you speak, people actually listen, you've got the right relationships and connections with people that feel really good too, and you're more present in the moment and in your life. And when you get the right mindset and start showing up with your A game, you are powerful, and that all means that you reach your goals faster. So let me know into the chat, would you like to show up with your A game? Who here would actually like that, to consistently be on form every day? Because that's where we need to get to. So I'm going to share with you 3 core steps to get there today. I'm going to also share with you in step 2 all of my system to do it. So, but I want to talk you through 3 steps. So they are these. There's people saying yes, they want to. Fantastic. Good. That's what we need here, is people actually want to make change. So 100%. Good. Right. So there are 3 steps to becoming unstoppable. They are these. They are to get clarity, reprogram for success, and become limitless. So I'm going to talk you through all of those now. And there are 3 core aspects to get clarity. So this first point here, and these 3 steps are these: that first of all, you need to identify your blind spots, then have a strategy for success, and then go through a process of self-mastery. So let's start with identify your blind spots. Let's start here. Look, most people don't know what it is that's stopping them. It makes no sense to them. They just can't make sense of it. They know what they need to do, what they should be doing, and then they just don't do it. And so what they tend to then find themselves are thinking things like this: which are kind of not really the problem, okay? But they'll start to think, I'm not going to do that today because actually I'm too busy. I haven't got time to do that critical task today. Or I'm going to do that important task when I feel more motivated or a bit more creative, or when I'm a bit more like on form. And so then their progress becomes reliant on their mood. And we just can't have that, can we? Where our business is reliant on like the mood that we're showing up with. And then the third thing they might start to think is, oh, that's not really good enough to launch yet. So actually, I'm just going to tweak it and change it a bit more and improve it. And so they're perfecting things far too much before they're actually releasing them and moving on. And they might think to themselves, oh, I'm not certain about the best way to go here or make this decision. And so then they're just sitting on things for too long and procrastinating on it. Or they'll start thinking like, oh, you know, I'll do a better job of that when I've learned a certain new skill, insert new skill. You know, I had a client where they were sort of saying this to themselves instead of doing the things they needed to. And they were saying, oh, it was a lady that wanted to learn a new form of coaching for her business. And so that she offered a service to a client. And, you know, she was going through this whole training process about learning this whole new coaching process when she was a really good coach already, but she told herself, she convinced herself she needed this qualification to be better. Actually, what she needed to do was build her business. And so this is what I call procrastinating. It's like always feeling like you need to learn another skill in order to be good enough in your business, when actually these are really just distractions that our mind creates to keep us in our comfort zone, okay? And so it's not the real reason for us not doing the tasks. Our mind wants to keep us in our comfort zone. And so people are blind to what's causing this. Now, that isn't intentional. These are blind spots. It's a function of our mind. And so people have blind spots that are getting in their way. And as the name suggests, they just can't see them. And so I'm going to explain the whole process to deal with it later. But we have to get clarity on this. We have to understand that to become unstoppable and grow our business, we will have blind spots. It's inevitable. And it's crucial that you're aware of this and that you've got a desire to uncover them, because if you haven't, there's no point in going through any of the rest of the presentation, because none of it would stick or work for you. So let me take you then to step 2 and get clarity. So once you've identified blind spots and the fact that you're going to have them, you need a strategy to deal with them. And I say that because people don't have a way to deal with this stuff. So, and for me, you know, personally, I spent like far too long on all of this, and I'll talk a bit more about it later, but you know, I look back and think, like, why didn't I deal with some of this underlying stuff sooner? And that's because I didn't understand I had blind spots. I couldn't see them. And then I didn't have a strategy to deal with it either. I just didn't know like what was going on. And that's why I'm doing this masterclass today, and where I run all of these masterclasses, because if I understood this strategy and how to deal with it like all those years ago, I would be so much further ahead of where I am now. I wanted to start my business when I was 26, and I actually started at 43. I mean, that is a lot of procrastination. But if I'd started my business back then with the idea I had back then, my word, I would have been light years ahead of where I actually am right now. And just like the revelation I had, I can't tell you how many people consistently say to me, look, I wish I'd done it years ago. Because when you've made these changes, you just wonder why you wouldn't have done it. You know, it doesn't make any sense. The problem is the majority of people just don't know that they've got the blind spots or have a strategy to resolve it, because otherwise they would have already done it. So the third step then in getting clarity is about being really clear with yourself, as I've said before, that you're the most important asset in your business. You know, commit to self-mastery, commit to understand how you work, how your brain works, how you can use your brain to your advantage to drive you forward, instead of letting that nagging voice control you and slow you down. Because if you really want business growth and to be unstoppable, you just need to know this, because it plays a massive role in how you are, in the action you take, in how you show up, in how well you influence other people. It's just really powerful. And I talk about one of my clients now, Rob. He committed to this. This isn't Rob, by the way. Looks a little bit like Rob, but I wanted to give you an idea of the sorts of people I'm dealing with. Look, Rob got to the point where like enough was enough for him. He got really clear that he needed to sort out how he was feeling, that he wanted to master himself. And I shared the strategy with him that I'll share with you today, and it's transformed him and his business. Now, Rob didn't really need to do this, because if you looked at the face of it, he had a successful business. He has a successful business. He employs a team of people. He's actually got a really good lifestyle, so it's paying him pretty well. But he was fed up with it. He was stressed by it all the time. He didn't have enough work for his team, like month to month. So he was always filling orders like at the last minute. And it felt like he was just surviving. And so then he'd be worrying about that and worrying about problems in the team. And it just made him feel like just giving it all up. But when we looked at what was actually going on and causing that, it was because he wasn't doing enough business development or sales activities. Okay, he was giving away too much to customers. If he had complaints, he'd give in to the customer and give them more than really he should have done. He wouldn't go after a project if he saw another supplier quoting on it that he thought might be better than him for the job. He wasn't sending out quotes for work promptly, even though then he had like requests for quotes. He wasn't reaching out to some of his existing network enough. And when Rob committed to self-mastery with me and went through all the steps I'm going to share with you, things absolutely transformed for him. Okay, he committed to doing all this work with me, and without any sales strategies at all, because he actually knew how to sell, his business took off. And he decided to go all in, unlock these blind spots. He had a plan, went through the process, and now where his business is that he's got a 6-month pipeline of orders. So having done that work, he's got 6 months worth of orders, because he's doing all of those things now. He's put in place the right prices, the right terms. He's going out, finding work, and his business is rocketing on the back of that. So the thing is that you can't identify these blind spots on your own. And people quite often think, oh, do you know, I'll figure this stuff out. But the thing is, you need to really like get clear on what they are, because if you don't commit to finding out and self-mastery, then you just really won't ever get any further than you are now. And if you do, it will be small steps and it will all feel like a struggle. And at the end of today's call, I'll offer you the opportunity to join a call with me where we can discuss your blind spots and what's going on for you. And what we'll do is talk about what it is that you want to achieve next, and then what's getting in the way. Because look, if you're not clear on that, then you're just not going to grow where you are beyond now. And I don't want that for you. I don't want that for anyone. You will just be missing opportunities that you could be taking right now. So the calls that I'll offer you will be with me. And as I said, we'll talk you through these things that are on the slide here. And they're 20 to 30 minutes. You would use my vehicle if you wanted to work with me, which is a Limitless Success Academy, to get there. I think there are 12 or 13 slots available this week. That's all I had. So if you want one, then please book one. The QR code to do that is here. For some of you, will have to dash off before the end. Then do feel free to go on and book one of those if you want one of them. I don't want you to miss out. Don't scan my top. That's not a QR code. How rude. So if you want one of those calls, book one. If you can't find a time that's right, then DM me or email me and I'll see what I can do for you. So that's the first step. It's about getting clarity. It's about understanding that you have to commit to self-mastery to get the results and to grow your business. So then we get into the fun stuff, into where everything happens, which is the reprogram stage. So reprogram for success is the next part I'm going to talk you through. And I'm going to talk you through the transformation and how you create it and the steps you need to go through. And so I've already showed you my process. I'm going to talk you through in detail now, like what it is within each of these steps that needs to happen in order to get to the end of this process, become unstoppable. And you'll see that this is my own process, which I call fresh. And that's intentional because it is refreshing to find something that really works for this stuff. And when I share my story, you'll understand why that's important. But the first step in this is about foundations and the fundamentals of mindset change. So there's quite a lot to this, but I'm going to share some really key things with you today to enable your understanding and help you follow through the rest of the masterclass. So what many people don't know, you may, but lots of people don't, is that the unconscious part of their mind is driving 95% of their results every single day. So basically, the unconscious part of our mind is determining our future and driving it unless we're in control of it and understand how it's working. And, But as I say this to you now and think back to where I used to be, when I used to hear people talking about mindset, I'd be a bit like, nah, really? Is that really that important? And I work with lots of technical clients too that used to feel that way also. But let me say, when you understand how your mind works, it's so incredibly powerful. So if you're feeling that way, then I totally get it. But go on and have a listen today and hear just exactly what it's doing, because I find it fascinating myself. So look, many people don't know that we've got a conscious and unconscious part of our mind. They're shown here as 50-50. They're not. Really, the unconscious is represented by far more than that there. So anyway, you can see here the difference between the two. The conscious part of our mind is where we do all the thinking. It's the bit that's in our awareness all the time, where we're like trying to figure things out and mentally going through stuff and like all the steps we need to take. The unconscious part of our mind is where we store all the things that we have learned to do, and most importantly, all the things we've come to believe about ourselves. And what this means is that where we've got a negative perception of ourselves, or like the situation we were going into based in the past and not the truth. Okay, so some perceptions based on the past and not the actual truth. What we do is we default into this really unhelpful, unresourceful way to deal with it automatically. And so these programs that we've created and then the responses that go with them operate a bit like a computer program. It's like a default setting. So something happens, we process it, find the program, and then we respond to it without actually needing to think about it at all. And so we automatically do what we do, act how we act, and say what we say. And we all think that it's the logical part of our brain that we use for conscious thinking that's running our life, but it isn't. Our unconscious mind is running our day. And if you think back now to how much of what you say isn't thought through carefully, or how many actions you take in a day that you do but don't need to decide to do, it's going to be like thousands. Our unconscious is running 95% of our life. So the first thing to know that's really critical in this step is that our unconscious is impacting on our results significantly. And to explain how all of this works and the impact that it's having, I'm going to talk you through my experience of this, because it helps me to put some of these theoretical concepts into a practical context. So, but for me, I personally had this going on for 40 years in my life, okay? And if you're in the same position as I was then, you might be able to relate to this too, but I'll talk you through what it was like for me. So this is me, look, living the perfect Facebook life here. You know, I've got all the kids, we went on lovely holidays, I had an amazing career. So before I started running this business, I was an international HR director. We were winning awards for how we employed people. I was the HR director leading on it. So on the face of it, doesn't that all look so successful? But let me tell you, life was a struggle. It really was such a struggle. I was just overthinking about things. I was worrying. I overworked, just worked far too hard. I tried so hard. And I was unsure whether I could really achieve more. But deep down, I just knew I had more in me. And so I'd find myself, though, back then thinking things like, oh, I don't know enough to be doing this job. Like when my company find out that there are better HR directors out there than me, they're going to want them to be doing it, not me. And then I think things like, oh, you know, I just don't know enough to be leading on these projects. I mean, I have 25 years experience. How much experience does anybody need? And then I'd see other people, other HRDs at conferences, and then with no evidence, I would, just based on what I saw of them, think that they delivered more, knew something I didn't, or just had this air like they totally nailed it. And logically, deep down, I knew I was good at my job. I was actually getting a full bonus, so I had to be good at my job. The evidence was all there. But whilst I logically knew it, let me tell you, I didn't feel it. I did not feel capable enough in that job. I didn't feel good enough. And that's the problem here. It's because the problem is that it's an emotional problem. It's not a logical problem. Okay, and that's a really critical part of this. This is not logical. I can apply some logic to it for you through my system, but actually what's driving it is you won't be able to you can't make logical sense of it by yourself. So when people try and resolve it for themselves, they can't logically figure it all through. And that's because it's emotional. So if I take you back to where I was, like at that time then, I felt, if I'm honest with you now, like I felt ashamed and a bit embarrassed to be thinking like I was and for doubting myself like that. And I felt like it was a bit weird and like I was a bit not normal and a bit inadequate. And, you know, I hated it when I spoke and I felt like people didn't really listen to me. And then for someone else only to say the same thing I just said, not minutes later, and everybody sat up listening. And that used to make me feel really bad. I'm like, why are they not taking notice of me? And, you know, I was fed up with all the time I was spending on perfecting things when I could have spent that time enjoying myself. And I felt ashamed that I couldn't just, excuse the term, but like man up when, you know, and just get the job done in an easier way, like other people seem to. But actually, all it really was is about the fact that I'd had programmed my brain to behave like I was. And actually, all I needed to do was reprogram it, but I didn't know that. So I tried really hard to grow and develop. So I read loads of books, did courses. So for instance, like I felt I wasn't very influential, like I said there. So I read loads on that and I did a load of courses. But despite knowing what it took to be more influential, I wasn't doing it in a way that was having any more influence. And that's because I didn't need to know how to be more influential. What I needed to do was be more influential. And there's a real difference between the two. You know, knowledge is not the same as having a skill. So, for instance, you could read a book on confidence, but it doesn't make you more confident. So no matter what books I was reading, I could not have more influence or speak with more conviction because I didn't have the skill. And so that was because my brain was just working on old programs that didn't allow me to do it. So I had to reprogram my brain for success in order to do that. And what I also found was that people that were experts didn't know how to do it either. So I worked with 2 coaches, I did some CBT, I went to a counsellor at one point, and the people would just say, Leanne, you just need to think differently. I mean, tell me something I didn't know. But that they didn't know how to reprogram my brain either. So they didn't know how to either change your thinking so that it actually is working for you and not against you. And so what most people don't realise is that they've hardwired into their mind some false beliefs about themselves that impact on how they're behaving now, what they do and the results they get. You see, what happens is that when we're young, things happen and we're told things and we accept those as facts. And then we go through our whole life believing at an emotional level that these things are true. And you might hear from my story, as you recall the story I've just told, but one major thing for me was about not feeling good enough. That was massive for me. And my word, that was manifesting itself everywhere. And no matter what your childhood though, and you could have had a really wonderful childhood, people pick up these beliefs because in early life we can't rationalize the things that people tell us, so we accept it as the truth. And the sorts of things we pick up like vary person to person, but here are a few of them now. You know, people pick up beliefs like they're not capable enough, or they're not good enough, or they don't know enough, or they don't feel smart enough. And I talk to loads of people about this, and these sorts of feelings are all really common, perfectly human, and they're just things we accidentally came to believe about ourselves. And what people find really hard to grasp is how on one hand, they know that they are good enough, smart enough, capable enough. In fact, they're often super capable because I work with a lot of really smart people. But the thing is they don't feel this way. And that's because they logically know it and they don't feel it because it is an emotional problem, not a logical problem. And it's the feeling that's actually stopping them. And I'll show you an example of how in a minute. Look, because if it was logical, these people would have just already sorted it all out because they're smart, good business people. They know that they're not using their full potential, and this is actually why. And when I help people uncover what their false beliefs are, what they realize is they've accidentally been connecting to years from these things from the past, and it's these things that are holding them back. But that being said, it is possible to change it. You'll be pleased to hear, because I did that in the end for myself, and the impact of that for me was that I now live the life that I want. I've got big goals. I've got a business that I love. I'm excited by it all. My business is growing. And, you know, obviously, like with my business, there are things that don't work out for me. You know, it is a business and there are problems that come up that get in my way. But what I will do is move through them really fast and just get on with sorting it out. I love selling the service that I sell. I love the impact my business has and how it helps people so much. And I'm really proud to share it and sell it. And most important for me is I have created a life of freedom where I am not tied to my business. I've got a business and I've created it in a way and have got the mindset that gives me time and space in my life. So to get the whole transformation for myself and my clients, I've created this framework. grounded in neuroscience. It changes how you think. And as I've said, you can't learn this stuff by reading books on how to do it. I had to spend ages researching it. I spent hundreds of hours training in techniques. And having done it, I've created the framework that actually supports you to change the way that you think, to behave differently, to have more impact, to promote yourself more, to become more successful. And here's this is a big thing, to regain some inner peace in your life. So lots of people I work with, they want better results and to get to the next level, but they really want a sense of inner peace in their life too. So just let me know into the chat, is that something for you? So I can see there's a bit going on here in this chat. Is important being able to show? It is about developing your EQ. That's exactly what we're doing here. Yeah, quite often though, people develop their EQ, but it's like they develop it from a process perspective and they don't actually connect to how to do that. And that's where the power came in, because I understood emotional intelligence before all this. But again, I'd read it in a book and I didn't get how to do it. So great. Yeah, you want a balance, you want some inner peace. Good. Okay, so that's step one, is about understanding the fundamentals of mindset change and how your mind works. So clearly there's more to it than that, but I want to take you through the whole process, and we've only got so long today. So step two is that you need to reprogram your thoughts and reactions. So in the same way that you once created these programs that hold you back, you can actually recreate them so that they drive you forward and enable and empower you. So step two is about doing that. The thing is, most people try to change their behavior to improve their results, but it's really, really hard to do. It's verging on impossible, because actually what the issue is here is about identity and beliefs. So while I didn't feel good enough, I wasn't able to show up with conviction, and no end of training changed it at a process surface level. So to make a long-lasting change, you need to reprogram your identity and your beliefs. You need to have a powerful self-image and belief system that's programmed to seek out success and not be held back by how you feel or by what's gone on before, and to allow your mind to go into that trap of letting all of that process and stop you in the moment. What you need to be dialing into are programs that enable you to be successful and feel empowered. Now, the most successful and lasting change happens when you reprogram your beliefs and your identity. Because these unconscious programs have just got so much power over us, because they connect our mind and our body and all of our actions. And so they're impacting our behavior all the time. And let me show you this to explain. So like, if you've got a belief that you're not smart enough, which is a pretty common one, you're going to see maybe then have a thought. So say you're going to see a new client and you might be thinking, oh, I bet this potential new client thinks that they might see other people that are better than me, that are more experienced, more knowledgeable than me. Why would they want to work with me? Be the sorts of stuff that could be going on. And the impact of that in terms of how you feel then is that you might show up feeling nervous, and then that might make you not be able to think straight in the moment. And so the action that you then get is this maybe stumbling over your words, or maybe your message lacks conviction. So in the way that you once created all of that to happen, you can actually recreate it by recreating a neural pathway to support it, by reprogramming your brain. And if I talk you through how that worked for Bella, who is a client of mine, she wasn't making sales in her business. She knew how to make sales. But the issue was a belief issue. She didn't believe that success was meant for her when she got to it. And she had a real moment, you know, that moment in your gut where you're like, oh, that's what it is. And it was leading her to think that her competitors were better than her. So when she showed up, she wasn't feeling great. And so despite knowing what she needed to do, she just wasn't making the sales because she wasn't showing up with conviction. And people can sense that stuff. And, you know, you get a sense, don't you, like where you're not convinced by somebody, where the person doesn't feel credible. And that was really true for Bella. So what she did with me is to resolve that, to reprogram her identity and her beliefs so that she could see herself, having done that as a successful businesswoman, believe at her core that she would succeed. And when she did all that, she showed up with so much more power and conviction. And then that enabled her to close sales. So let me know in the comments, let me hear from you now. Do you ever find yourself showing up without the self-assurance or conviction that you actually should? Let me know if that's a thing for you. Okay, good. Well, the chat's not come through yet. Okay, hopefully it'll come through shortly. So let me know into the chat if that's a thing for you. So the thing is, until you deal with your identity and your beliefs, reaching the next level is going to be a struggle. And it's important that you do this using mindset techniques that work, because you can't use willpower to push through all this stuff, because you have to reprogram your brain that's processing all of this. And in my academy, I share how to do that using techniques grounded in neuroscience that are really powerful and have a massive impact. So if we move on to the third step of becoming unstoppable, and this is about embedding the change and then also embarking with new mindset principles. So there are sort of two parts to this I'm going to walk you through. So the first one is, at this point, having done all that work on understanding what's getting in the way, what your beliefs are, what your identity is, reprogramming your thoughts and feelings, you then need to really deepen the change that you've made, and you need to deal with really old feelings at this point that are holding you back. Now, to show you how feelings might be impacting on you right now, I just want you to do this for me. I want you to think about something that you need to do, something you need to do now, but maybe you're not doing it or you're avoiding it. Start to think about having to do that shortly and what that feels like. And you might start to notice like a bit of a sensation in your tummy, in the pit of your stomach, sometimes in your head. You start to get this negative sensation, and that's resistance. These are the feelings that once they start to really play in, hold people back. They stop you moving forward. So you need to resolve these feelings and learn how to reprocess them so that they don't get in your way. So that when you go to do it, you feel excited for it and not apprehensive about going off to do it. So today I want to talk a bit more about fear and apprehension and nervousness, because it's really common for people to get held back because of fear, because people love certainty. And the thing is, the degree to which you can handle uncertainty really is what's going to determine how successful you are in business. You know, can you find a way to move forward when things get really tough, or do you find yourself like hesitating and feeling a bit bad about it and procrastinating a bit on what to do, and then it goes round in your mind and it holds you up? And if you do, like, that's perfectly human and it's not your fault. It's just you haven't got a way to overcome it. And I know I've been there. And for my clients and I, learning how to deal with this has been really massive. It's been game changing. But fear is a topic where it doesn't feel very nice to admit that we feel worried or scared or nervous. We feel like we shouldn't feel that way, that in some way we need to be superhuman to be able to do all of the things. But the thing is, what most people don't realise about feelings of fear and other feelings too, is that we're unconsciously storing up all the memories of all the things that have gone wrong in our life, because our brain wants us to learn from them so that we don't do them again. So we're feeding them into sort of like these program responses. And then as we see similar situations, and it might not even be the same thing, our brain will create an emotion like fear in this example. And so we might find ourselves being disproportionately fearful. So for example, like lots of people are nervous about public speaking. I used to be terrified of it. But there's actually no need to be nervous about public speaking, is there? And people sometimes say, you know, I fear public speaking as much as death. I can't remember the saying, but anyway. But nobody ever died from public speaking, yet we fear it in the same way. And that's because we are constantly storing these feelings up of fear. And so that from a mindset perspective, we stop ourselves from doing things that are potentially damaging to us. But actually in business, some of that stuff we need to do. And so these feelings just aren't necessary and they're really unhelpful. And so these negative experiences in our mind are what are creating these disproportionate reactions. And until we resolve them, we won't move forward. Now, this was an issue for Christine, who's a client of mine. And Christine wasn't making headway in her business. Now, she works in in-store merchandising. And as part of the sales process for that, she thought that she needed to do cold sales. That's the model that she needed for her business. And so that was a strategy that she wanted to implement to grow it. But the problem was, even though she thought that was the best way forward, like fear was getting in her way. She would have been really, really happy to do like grow her business by networking because she loves that. And she did loads of it. But the thing is, she needed to do the cold sales, turning up in the shops. And so she couldn't understand why that was a problem, though, because actually she knows how to turn up in a shop and have a conversation with someone, but it was fear that was really getting in her way. And it's such a big problem for so many people, like fear of making a mistake, fear of putting yourself out there, fear of someone saying no to us, fear of what people will think if it doesn't work out. It goes on and on and on. It's really common and it can really hold us up. But to move forward, you have to let go of these memories and these associated negative feelings from the past, because it's those that hold you up. And when you're free of them, you can go into new situations, which is exactly what I helped Christine to do. And having done that with me on my program, like she said, that she no longer fears these things, has self-doubt, and doesn't feel good enough, because in 10 weeks she increased her income by 50%. And so her life became unrecognizable. And like many people, she said she wished she'd just done this years ago. Now, she nearly didn't do it because of investing in herself. It felt like a big deal to her, given where she was in her business. But now she says she's so glad she did, because it's at that point that everything changed for her. So if I move on then to step 3, or continue on to step 3, the second part of this is about embarking forward with new mindset principles and strategies. And so this is, I think, quite interesting for people, because I just wonder whether you've ever considered how successful business people think, because lots of people haven't really thought about it, but there are some real patterns, some really fundamental principles that they're actually applying. And so, like, if you think about business people a bit like athletes, I know it's a bit of a twee sort of comment, but you imagine an athlete going out onto the field thinking that they were going to lose. Can you imagine the impact of that? You know, you really need your mental game to be in the right space in order to get the results that you want. You know, business is just the same as sports from that context. You need to believe that you're going to win in the end. So the second part of this is about learning new principles so that you see situations in a whole new way. And if you think about that, if you think back to when you started work and the way that you looked at things back then, I'm guessing it probably is quite differently to how you look at things now. And you probably have a whole different perspective now, and your results will have improved as a result of it. So the next step is about applying mindset principles that will enable you to move forward and see things from the perspective that you need to in order to deal with it. Now, in my program, I share 10 of these because they're the 10 that I think have got the biggest impact. And when you learn them and how to apply them, they make a huge difference. And if I share one of them with you now, now on the face of it, this doesn't seem like a lot, but I just want us to think about this for a minute. So one of them is the most flexible communicator in any situation will have the most influence over the outcome. So the most flexible communicator will have the most influence over the outcome. Now, you can see how that's the case, can't you? If you can communicate flexibly with people and actually adapt to their style rather than your own, then you're going to be able to speak to them in a way that works. And lots of people might realise that, but they actually get stuck with how to do it. So it's not that they don't know it, it's just that they don't know how to implement it. And so through my program and actually helping someone understand that principle in more detail, he dealt with an issue that was massive for him. And he basically had a business partner, and his business partner was one of these people that were like had always had something negative to say about everything. He got in the way more than he actually helped resolve everything. And my client said it felt like this was an unsustainable business relationship. They were going to have to split if they couldn't sort this out. But actually, since going through the program, applying in particular that principle was massively important for him, it's actually helped him understand like how to do that and how to do that effectively. And so now he's resolved the issue with the person and they're working together well, and it's saved him so much time and energy, and it's avoided him having to get distracted, and now his business can continue on without all of that getting in the way. So let me move into the fourth step because I'm mindful of time now. Fourth step is social success. So obviously the quality of our relationships is going to have a major impact on our success. So having done all the work on ourselves, the next step is about becoming unstoppable in terms of your social skills, in finessing your relationships and the connections you have with others. And if you think of someone who's really great with people, you know, the sort of person that when they speak, people really listen to them, who people are drawn to and like want to be around, those sorts of people that are like magnetic. People often think that being that way is like something you're born with, and maybe for some people it is, but actually you can learn it. And so it's not just how we're born. And so in step 4, you need to finesse your social skills. And there's obviously more to this than I can cover now, but to just give you some indication here of where you could get started, let me ask you this. Do you notice in some situations with some people you can be on form, like your best self, and then in another situation you find yourself being like underconfident or nervous? Now the reason for that is because you've programmed yourself to act in a certain way with them, in a way that's different to how you behave with other people. So they're like a bit of a trigger to you. And what that means is you're not your best self when you're with them or people like them. And so I had a client and he was selling to corporates. And he said that he was dealing with a couple of people in these large PLCs and he felt really nervous in those situations. And he said he felt like a little boy in the boardroom. And he said that he just got this sense like they didn't think he was clever enough or experienced enough, despite being highly intelligent. And so he'd get nervous. And this client was in his late 50s. He was running a company turning over millions. And he learned how to reprogram his brain so that he was unaffected by this. And now he shows up with influence and charisma instead of struggling through those meetings. Now he's totally comfortable and he's just delivering so much better. The other thing that then can happen when you're triggered by people is that you'll then start to avoid them. Makes sense, doesn't it? And so I had another client who wasn't going to networking meetings because he thought his competitor would look at him and think that he shouldn't be running a business. And this competitor was an ex-boss, to give some context. And my client had years of experience and didn't need to feel that way. It was a mindset issue that was causing the problem. And when he got to the root cause of it and solved it with me, he showed up then feeling completely credible. And now he's networking like a pro and converting sales from it. So you have to work out in this 4th step how to be consistently influential and unaffected by who you're speaking to so that you speak with conviction in any situation. Okay, and that takes me then into the 5th step, the last step of this process, which is about creating new habits. So having made those changes, there's a potential you could fall back into old habits. And so the next step is really about identifying a few things that you're going to consistently do so that you maintain where you are, but then continue to thrive and excel, doing better and better. So the last step is about identifying new habits that will support you to do that. You don't need to spend hours on this stuff, like hundreds of hours journaling, meditating, all these things, just a few core things to pick off to do consistently to keep yourself in really good shape mentally. And I had a client where this was particularly important, and unfortunately he lost some business when one of his key clients, their business changed, and it just meant a bit of a problem on sales for him. And so all of a sudden he found himself in this position where like he didn't know what was going to happen. At that point he could have gone to pieces, and he said to me in the past he would have just like let that completely derail him, but he had implemented just a few key habits that kept him in the right space so that he held his head, so that he took corrective action, so that he continued to build his business and didn't let this derail him and stop him. Like he said in the past, these situations absolutely would have done it. So through my program I helped him identify a few core habits to maintain this way of being so that when uncertainty or difficulty struck, he could just move through it and continue on and continue growing. So in terms of the process, that's the process that I use, and I would suggest that you use in order to change your mindset. But in terms of becoming unstoppable today, there's just one last step. So I said I'd talk you through these steps to become unstoppable. So I've talked about getting clarity, that you've got blind spots. I've talked about reprogramming for success. The last thing I want to talk about today is actually becoming limitless and what that's like, because people achieve more when they've got an empowered, powerful mindset, when they feel truly determined and resilient, and that, you know, they feel highly motivated, like for most of the time. And, you know, because we can't let our business success be determined by our mood. And so what we need is this limitless feeling in order to excel and push us forward. And you can actually create this. You can create this limitless feeling by taking all the steps that I mentioned to you so that you are motivated, so that when you get curveballs and things go wrong, they don't affect you for long. Like I find for me, they don't affect me for long, and I just move on because of the mindset I've created. But I want to give you a bit of an experience about what that would be like, because people can't really imagine how it would be to feel that way, because most people don't feel like that. Lots of people don't feel like that. I just want you to do this for me now. I just want you to allow yourself to imagine for a moment, and maybe just close your eyes if you want to really get into this now. Just want you just to think about like the next big step for you in your business, something that you really want to achieve that would feel like a big deal for you, a big milestone for you, about where it is you're trying to get to next. And I just want you to allow yourself to think about that goal now, or that step. And then I want you to now just imagine how it feels on the day that you've achieved it. Just imagine how that feels now. You realise you've done it, you've actually got there. And just notice how that feels now as you start to experience that feeling of actually achieving it. And just now think about what it is you'd be thinking about yourself in that moment. It might be that you're proud of yourself, or how satisfied you are, or like, yes, I've done it, whatever it is for you. And then how would you see yourself then? How would you see yourself having achieved all of that? What would that be like for you? And if you have closed your eyes now, then just open them up. That's a really quick example. But when you create this limitless feeling, you become this person, because the point of this is that when you remove all those blocks, you can be that person, and then you do what you need to do. So you become the person who does the things that you need to do to get the results. And so that's why becoming limitless is so important early on, because then it really helps you propel forward. So let me just really quickly recap on how you can move forward from here. Look, my 5 recommendations to you now are these. 1, that you commit to a self-mastery strategy and dealing with your blind spots, because if you're here now, look, my guess is that you're going to have them. So the second is that you don't guess, you actually identify what false beliefs are limiting your success and reprogram your neural pathway so you become the person you want to be. Then my 3rd recommendation is that you look at fear, because fear holds people back. And that's only because they don't know how to effectively control it. So find a way that works for you, because life doesn't need to be so hard as we make it. And then 4thly, I would look at your social interactions and identify what it is you need to do to show up as your best self. And then finally, from today, once you've done all of that, put in place some habits so that you remain unstoppable in your life. Because to become unstoppable and get the results you deserve, you really don't need to work harder, do more, or cope better. You just need a process to effectively uncover your blind spots and reprogram your brain for success. And I know that you will be really capable, but we have to get to this point where you get the results you deserve in an easier way. So, look, thank you for those of you that have stayed with me through this. I appreciate that we're getting to near the end of the hour now. But look, let me know if this is something that you would like. Would you like to get to the point in your life where you feel unstoppable? I'm going to come over to the chat because I've seen lots going on there, but we're running out of time a bit here. So, okay, so look, if this is something that you would like, then, and I hope what I've shared already has been helpful to you, and there is going to be time for Q&A shortly. But for those of you that this is resonating with and are sat here realizing that you need to do something different to live the life you want to live, that life's too short for all this, and you just want to get the results you want to get, and you're ready just to get this done, then I've got an opportunity for you. Now, it's only for you if you're taking a look at yourself and realizing that you don't have enough clarity, you aren't taking enough control of this right now, you haven't got a strategy for how you're being in your business, for making the most of yourself so that you become unstoppable and limitless. If you're sat here really being honest with yourself, wanting to make this change, and it isn't for everyone, it's just for people that want to make a long-lasting change, then I've got a program for you. It's a program, my Limitless Success program. You've already heard the 5 steps that we work through in it, but obviously within the program, then I cover that in so much more detail with you. So I'm opening my academy today. How the program works for those of you that are interested in this. In my Limitless Success program, you get two things. You get the core program and then you get some extra support. So the core program is this. So you get my Limitless Success training program, which is basically 12 modules that you do over 12 weeks. It's one module a week. It takes about an hour to do. You follow that fresh framework with the 5 steps I've explained, broken down into 12 modules, and it's done online, in demand, at a time that you can choose. And the modules are all varied, and they consist of videos, reprogramming techniques, worksheets, audios. People really enjoy doing this work. And the modules are released weekly over the 12 weeks for you to do the work each week, and at the end of the 12 weeks you will have completed your transformation. It's not a course where you sit and listen to it and then do something later. Every single week you'll make a change, and the majority of the personal change work is done in the first 6 weeks, so you'll see dramatic changes in the first 6 weeks. You also get extra support. So in order to support you, because I really want you to embed this change and for it to really stick for you, I support you with 12 months access to support. And that way I can make sure with you that you don't fall back into old habits. So you have access to group coaching calls over that 12 months. And there are 2 a month, they're live, and you can join those that you want to, and I'll support you to take these steps. Every month I deliver the content in a slightly different way so that you really connect with it and you make these shift changes. Now all these calls are recorded. You also get personalised feedback and answers to any questions in my online community. So if at any point you've got a question, you can just tap in the question and I'll answer it for you. You get the accountability and my support to get this done, and I really support the people in my community move through this. They're really passionate about people seeing the change that they want to get. And then as a bonus, I give you access to my personal productivity blueprint course, because people doing this program feel sometimes too busy to do it, and actually that's just about productivity. So I give you access to that, so that, and that takes about 2.5 hours to do, but it will radically change the way that you are going about your work so that you're more productive. And that gives you the time and space to do the program. So for the core training and the extra support, so for all of that across the 12 months, it's £997 plus VAT, or it's 90 as a one-off, or it's £97 across 12 months. So I've made this really affordable, and I think it's exceptional value. Someone said to me the other day, that's probably not enough, but it's really accessible to you, and I've got some other higher ticket clients, so it enables me to do this at this price point. However, if you're sat there thinking that you want more one-to-one support, then I do offer some one-to-one support and just take on a very limited number of clients every month. So if you wanted that rather than the program, you can book a call and we can discuss that option too. So you might wonder, like why is it gets results, and what really is the impact of all this? If you're sat there wondering that, it's because it gets results because you're reprogramming your mind instead of trying to change your behavior, like I talked about earlier, this surface level change, which is so hard to do. And it works because you reprogram your brain so that you show up as the best version of yourself and have the impact and influence. And this is what Colin said. He said, I once said it's hard to lead the cavalry if you think you look funny on a horse. Now, just to give some context, he's got a forces background. Not sure that it was in the days of the cavalry, but anyway, it resonated. But he realised that he wasn't feeling like the leader that he wanted to be, and he wasn't showing up in the way that he wanted to. And through the programme, it really liberated him from these beliefs, these unknown beliefs that he'd had for so long about himself. It also works because you reprogram your brain to deal with difficult situations and influence other people effortlessly. And like Jimmy says here, I guided him to deal with his internal challenges of dealing with difficult situations and people, and they aren't superficial changes, they are deep down lifelong changes for him. And it also gets results because you figure out why you've been avoiding things, and it gets you into action really quickly, and you reprogram your brain for action, visibility and self-promotion. Like Kelly, who says, she's been finding it hard to take action in her business, she'd been avoiding things. She didn't know why, and once she started her program with me, she couldn't believe how quickly we dived to uncover what was holding her back. Her perspective shifted, she's taking action more than ever before, she's empowered, enthusiastic, she's got complete self-belief, and she's promoting herself and her business. It also works because you reprogram your brain to be proactive and seek opportunity. You feel sure and confident. It helps you close sales and results, and the results are really fast. like Becky, who says she knew she could achieve more, but she was holding back. After the program, she closed more sales just in 3 days than after the whole of the previous month. And she said that she'd let go of self-doubt and all that other stuff, and now she feels sure and confident, and it's had a massive impact on her business and her personal life too. Now, it works because you reprogram your brain for maximum impact and long-lasting success, and you have a toolkit for life like Simon talks about here. So if you're sat here and you're thinking you really want to move forward in your life and achieve limitless success in your business, then the next step is to book a free strategy call. On the call, we talk about what you want to change, what's getting in the way, and we would create a plan for you to get there, either using the Limitless Success Academy or my one-to-one program. On the call, this is really important, you can find out if I'm the right person, because you only know so much about me today. You can find out if I'm the right person to support you. And it gives me the opportunity to check out whether you're right for the program, which I'm sure you would want to, because just like you, I want you to be successful. And so it's important for me that you're committed to the change and in the right space for it. So if you've got questions, I'm going to open the Q&A now, or you can book a call and speak to me in person. Either way, there are only limited calls, I think this week running into Monday. And so once those are gone, they'll be gone. So if you want one, use that QR code or use this URL and book one. And then let's see what we've got going on in the chat here. So if you've got a question, just make sure it's in the Q&A so that I can answer it for you. So what have we got here? Oh, you're very welcome, Emma. Okay. Some podcast recommendations there. Appreciate the talk. Okay, I can't see any questions here. If anyone has any questions, maybe just pop them back into the chat so that I can answer them for you. Okay. Good. Okay, so you've got booked a call. Brilliant. I can't wait to see you later in the week. You're going to bring a virtual biscuit. Oh, wouldn't that be nice if you could bring a real one? Okay, good. So any more questions? No. Okay, look, so I'm going to assume I can't have any questions. Here we are. Any recommendation resources or further reading? I mean, I've got a YouTube channel with loads of resources in it if you want to watch more about it. I guess, I mean, there's loads you can read. I think the issue is about how do you create the change, and that's really what this is all about for me. So it's a lot about confidence. It is a lot about confidence. These belief issues show up for some people as a lack of confidence, and so for some people that resonates. For other people, it doesn't really show up like that, so they just find themselves feeling nervous or apprehensive in a certain situation, and so they are confident people, like generally, but they've just got these few things where they're either like showing up and being nervous, or they're not taking the action that they should. So yes and no. For some people, it will show up as lack of confidence. For others, it won't. It will show up as procrastinating or something like that. But yes, confidence can be one of them. Any networking events I would recommend for this. I'm not sure for this specific issue that I could recommend to me. I've got a great networking event in Bristol if you want to come to that. But I mean, there are loads of business networking events out there. I mean, I would just Google that. There'll be lots. One phrase that helped you the most. Yeah, what got you here won't get you there. I think that's what's helped me the most. It's helped me realise that actually, like, what I'd achieved so far was massive, and I could be thankful to myself for showing up that way for all that time, although it was really hard work. But actually, it made me realise that it just wasn't going to take me on another level. And so I needed to change something in order to get myself there. So I think for me, that was one of the things that made a massive difference. It's like, yeah, it's got you here, but it just isn't going to get you there. Any steps in a change to the routine? Shall we join the 5 a.m. club? I mean, if you like, I personally wouldn't. Although everyone tells me you have to get up and have a 5 a.m. routine, I'm generally asleep at 5 a.m. No, I think you need to, from my experience, I think you need to make these changes, that you need to get that done quickly. How are you going to do it? You just need to get done quickly, so that you can move forward and not have to be finding all these like really long processes. Like journaling, I love, it's lovely, but you don't need to have this big 1 hour routine every day, in my view. In order to have a strong mindset, what you need to do is create the strong mindset and then have a couple of little habits that you make sure that you maintain when things aren't working out for you, and that you can recall and implement. So for me, I think routines are probably the really long, hard way to do it. A phrase, a piece of advice, or a mantra. I don't tend to work so much with mantras, because again, they're kind of really surface level. So I'm struggling to think of something, to be honest with you, because that's all about that surface level behavioral change. And I think if you're working at the mantra level, it's just such a long way of doing it. So I'm not sure I've got one, but if I think of one, I'll stick it in social media this week. So thank you for the question, and I'll come back to it. Thank you. Okay. An affirmation. Yeah, I don't tend to work with affirmations. I mean, you could, I am successful and strong and confident and all those things. Anything like that would be useful to remind yourself. But I think if you're in that space of trying to create that change in that way, it's kind of a really hard change to do that way. So because mantras are just so surface level, you could, I think you just would be on forever with them, trying to get them to stick. So I'd be inclined to find a deeper way to deal with it than actually really using mantras. But anything like I am successful, I'm confident, I'm strong, in a moment of doubt will be really useful to you. So something like that. I am deserving of success would be perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Good. Any more questions? Have we got anything else in the chat here? Who have we still got on? We've still got a lot of people on, actually. If you're sat here thinking you've got a question and you're not sure whether to ask it, then please do. Please do go on and ask it, because I'd be really happy to answer it for you. Having even just 1 hour before your usual routine helps you respond rather than react. Helps you find... Yeah, I do think that you need. I do think that you need to give yourself. I do think that you need to find some time to think in general life in order to prepare for things. I think that's quite right. That sometimes we'll go from meeting to meeting, back to back, and not take any space to think. And actually, we all need thinking time. So absolutely, I'd agree with you on that. Someone wants me to make them more visible. I don't know how to do that. What would you like me to do, Carolina? Can I share the slides? Unfortunately, I can't share the slides, but I will share the whole presentation later. So if you would like to watch again, then because you've joined here now, at some point later today, either in your junk or in your inbox, you'll find the recording and you can go through that, and the slides obviously are available. The most helpful habit that I've implemented to overcome procrastination or self-doubt, yeah, it is learning how to change my feeling in the moment. That's what I've learned to do. I've learned to shift from feeling like procrastinating into being very motivated and excited to move forward. And that for me is definitely one of the core habits that I use. Good. Okay, any more? Let's see. Loads of questions today. Thank you, guys. It's really nice to have lots of questions. So I can see there's still loads of people live. Yeah, emotional self-regulation, absolutely. But it's about finding a way to do it, I think, that works. And that's what I used to struggle with. Oh, somebody's okay. Yeah, I can't help you with the SEO piece for now. That's not what this is for today. So you're all good. Sometimes business is at the top of our mind in marketing. It's not only about selling now, but when the customer is ready to buy. Yeah, absolutely. It's about promoting yourself all of the time so that absolutely when they're ready to buy from you, they can. And so, it's about being front of mind. And for people struggling with visibility and with not wanting to publish much on social media, or worrying that they're putting too much out, etc., all of that stuff is going to get in the way, because we absolutely need to, if that's our strategy, and it won't be everybody's, but if it's our strategy, and it's certainly mine, is to be front of mind and available and accessible, then absolutely we need to be doing that then, and so that we are visible, and we're not holding ourselves back and stopping ourselves marketing ourselves for some other reason. Okay, good. So look, we've is there any more questions? Where are we? Okay. No, I don't think there are. Fabulous. Okay, so let's see who we've still got in. Oh, we've still got a lot of people live. So if there are more questions, I'm going to just give one more minute. Oh, here we are. Yes, but what I sell is an investment. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's probably too much detail for me to go into now, Caroline. If you want to book a call and talk about it separately, happy to. I probably need a bit more information about what it is you're trying to do there and what's going on for you. Is it that you're saying that you have got a high ticket product, and so therefore your business needs to be marketing? It's not only about selling now when the customer is ready. So is it that you're saying that you want to be marketing yourself more every day? What is it that you're asking there? And then I'll try and answer that for you. I'm not quite sure what the question is. Okay. You're very welcome, Sarah. Nice to see you. Good. Perfect. That is what you're saying, yes. So for you then, Caroline, I think it is about getting to the bottom of why you aren't showing up every day and be in front of people's mind. What is it that's stopping you? What is it that's limiting you? And getting to the bottom of what that belief is, and then actually shifting that so that instead of every time you then think about posting on social media and then not wanting to do it, or finding a reason not to, or getting distracted by something else, you actually go ahead and do it. Because what you need to do is stop referencing into that old belief and find a whole new way, a whole new self-perception. And that's not changing yourself, but the way that you see yourself, so that you feel more enabled and empowered to do that. You feel more motivated to do it rather than feeling resistant. And that's what we're doing here. We're dialing into what the resistance is and what the thoughts and beliefs are, changing them so that then we can show up differently. Because if I'd done this presentation to you, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, it would have been awful. I mean, I'm not joking. It just would have been. I think about the last presentation that I did in a corporate role, and my word, words fail me. I'm sure maybe it wasn't as bad as I think, but I was so nervous. I was stuttering all over the place, stumbling over my words. And it really wasn't good. So and I'd done a load of things to try and change that. Actually what had to change is my perception of myself in order to do that, so that in those moments I felt empowered and motivated rather than nervous and anxious and unable to think things through. So I think it's the same thing. It's about being able to see yourself in a different way so that you want to show up on social media, so you feel really proud, so that you can't wait to help the next person, and you don't care how many people you tell, because you're just really happy to tell everybody. So I think that's the issue. It's about understanding what is it in yourself that's stopping you. Okay, look, I'm going to call it a day there, because I can see that I think most people are leaving now. Where are we? We've still got quite a lot live, but anyway, that being said, I'm guessing if you're still here now, you're possibly sort of looking for other people's questions and haven't got any of your own. If you do, look, I'm on LinkedIn, come and connect with me. I'll answer them for you there. Drop me an email, happy to answer for you. Otherwise, if you booked a call in, looking forward to meeting you and helping you. Otherwise, I'll catch up with you really soon somewhere. Thank you.